Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of BIM After Dark Live. This is actually episode 43, believe it or not, which is pretty wild. My name is Jeff, also known as the Revit Kid. This is a weekly show where it's myself or a guest or multiple guests, and we talk about all things Revit, BIM, and Revit/BIM related. I don't know if you heard that, but my son is dragging some things around as if they're snowblowers recently, so I apologize if you hear any noise. But thank you for joining me tonight. If you are new here, I want to thank you. Make sure that you subscribe. So subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Hit the little notification bell so you know when we go live. And thank you for joining us. If you're returning, thank you for returning to the show. Appreciate it. This is a live show every week since almost a year now, since March, I don't remember, 13th maybe, 12th, I don't remember, but since the quarantine basically started. And we talk about all things Revit, and it's live, so we get to interact with you, which is always exciting. Today we're going to talk about some exciting things. If you've been following the show, these 43 episodes, you'll know that I've been in the process of designing and building an addition to my house, and some of you may be sick of hearing about it, but I apologize. But I think it's a great little test project to take the things that I've learned at 6 years of working at Turner Construction, which is a large construction management company, and then what I know on the residential architecture side of things, and combining them together and designing and building my own project. So I am the GC of this project. And so trying to take those things I've learned on, $500 million hospitals and figure out how can those relate to a much smaller budget addition. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you a little progress update on how construction's going, but then also point out some of the things in Revit and what I've been doing throughout the process to sort of help not only the architectural construction administration side of residential architecture, but also the GC, the general contractor side of it. So let me just check out the chat real quick, see what you guys are talking about here. It looks like, yes. So for those of you that don't know, if you're new here, this started as a happy hour and sort of morphed into a more formal show. And so cheers to everyone who's got a cocktail tonight. I know some of you may be in different time zones, but I'm actually drinking a wine from a company called One Hope. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. If you're not, check it out. The wine's actually really good. This is a Sauvignon Blanc. But all the proceeds, or a portion of the proceeds, go to a few causes. The one that I found out about it through is breast cancer awareness and breast cancer research. So check them out for sure. We got some folks with Guinness and stouts, some rum, some Corona. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us so much. We got some returning visitors. Joe's out there. What's up, Joe? Beth Ann, how's it going from South Jersey? I'm sure you've got plenty of snow as well this week. Zach, how's it going? And so let's jump right into it. Before we get into the content, I did want to take a moment to thank our sponsor. BIM Box is the official sponsor of this program until further notice. So thank you so much, BIM Box. Let's roll a quick clip, and I'll tell you all about them if you have not heard of BIM Box before. So here we go. Alrighty, so BIM Box is what it sounds like. Their box is made for BIM. They are computers, laptops, and desktops that have been designed and optimized for Revit. Okay, so whenever someone asks you, hey, what's the best Revit PC out there, you can honestly say that there is one out there. It's not the Dell XPS Inspiron, whatever, because those are great PCs, sure, maybe, I don't know, but they are not built for what you do. So definitely reach out to the crew at BIMBox. You can email them at sales@bimboxusa.com, or you can head over to bimbox.bimafterdark.com. Some of the things to know about BIMBox in general is that customer support is amazing. If you reach out to email, you'll probably hear right back from Buck Davis, who is an awesome dude, or someone on his team. They have a 3-year warranty with all of their machines, and they deliver any machine in 10 to 14 days. Another thing to note, which is sort of more recent, is if anyone of you have tried to build a custom desktop, for example, and tried to buy a graphics card right now, you'll see that either you can't or you spend just about as much as a brand new machine for one graphics card. because of Bitcoin and some of the cryptocurrencies going bananas right now. It is really difficult to find them. I know for a fact that BIM BOX does have a certain number of RTX 3000 cards in stock and ready to put in a PC for you. So reach out to those guys. Head on over to bimbox.bimafterdark.com and check it out. If you're in the market for a new PC or laptop, definitely check it out. All right, greetings, Jim Balding. What's up, Jim? How's it going, man? Yep, Beth said, yep, still digging out. Yeah, we got about 18-ish inches, which normally is what it is, right? And anyone from the Northeast kind of knows that that's just the way it is. But when you've got what you'll see, some of these photos and videos I'm going to share is that when you've got construction going on and you've got piles of wood under tarp and all kinds of stuff in your yard that are supposed to go on the house and the deck, 18 inches of snow becomes 36-inch drifts and piles in between and scraping, and it's just not too much fun. Okay, last but not least, before we jump into the content, I did want to make a little announcement. I want to reach out to more people to come on this show. So most of my guests in the past have been folks that I know or folks that reach out to me individually and say, hey, I've got this thing I want to talk about. So what I wanted to do is extend that to literally anybody. So if you have something that you'd like to come on the show and share, or maybe you know someone who does, I wanted to give you the platform to do that. So what I want you to do is, if you're interested, whether it's yourself or maybe you know somebody, head on over to submit.bimafterdark.com, and there's a short little sign-up form that I'm only asking for a couple things, and yeah, I want to hear from you. Maybe you've got something you're working on. Maybe you know somebody's got something they're working on. I wanted to give you guys a way to reach out to me, and who knows, maybe you'll be sitting here with me on Zoom, chatting up a storm on whatever it is that you're working on. So please fill that out if you're interested. I look forward to talking to you guys. And yeah, thanks again. So let's talk about this. Ronald, greetings. Awesome. I got water. Happy Thursday. All right. So let's jump into this. So, again, as I mentioned before, I've been in the process of designing and building an addition to my house. So what I want to do is, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with the project, you can check out past episodes at live.bimafterdark.com, and you'll see there's a few of them sprinkled throughout there, different things that I'm doing. But let me just introduce you guys to the project for those maybe who aren't familiar with it. And actually, last week, if you watched the episode on drones, you get a little sense of the project too. A couple videos and 3D point clouds and all that kind of stuff there. So as you're looking here, this is actually the existing house. So this is the Revit model for the project. So this is how the house was. So pretty straightforward. It's a split level ranch, I guess you call it, or I guess it's split ranch or raised ranch, depending on, actually more of a raised ranch and a split level, but marketing wise they call them all different things. But you can see in the back here we have a deck, there was a stone wall, and that was sort of the house. It's pretty simple. It's basically a rectangle, right? Front and back. The grade drops a little bit. If I go to the side, you'll see the grade drops from front to back a little bit down here, right? So what we're doing is we removed the existing deck, and we're building this. So nothing crazy, right? It's 2 stories. This is actually going to be a dining room. Down here is going to be a new office. A couple people made a couple mentions that maybe it looks a little different back there. I'm in the process of getting rid of some of the furniture in here and whatnot, just because we have a dumpster in the yard. But then also building this huge deck here, which is going to be great because anyone who's ever lived in a raised ranch knows that the connection between the public space, which is usually on the upper floor here, and the yard can be kind of awkward. And so being able to walk out through different areas and connect those pieces is going to be really nice, not to mention giving us a nice little covered patio in the backyard here. Okay, so that's a little walkthrough of the project itself. Again, I do want to stress and reiterate that this is a live show right now. So if you're here live, I want you to ask questions, and feel free to ask questions and converse with me as I go through this stuff. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and go, which maybe you want me to, whatever. But I do want to be interactive with you guys. So that's kind of an overview of the project itself. And so I want to give you a little update on where we are as far as construction is concerned. Also show maybe some, I mean, I know for me personally, and I'm assuming for most of you out there who are architects, engineers, or contractors, just seeing sort of construction progress photos and videos is always extremely exciting. Joe Buchek just said, love the cross bracing. Yeah, so that, yeah, I was I was going back and forth about the bracing, and reason being it's not very tall, and you don't necessarily need it because of how short the posts are, and I also was worried about headroom, but I do like the look, and now that this thing is framed and built out, I think cross bracing is necessary because there's just a lot going on. It's a huge deck. And actually, I do believe there is a sort of code requirement for the cross bracing, depending on how you read it. But haven't been told to put it there. I'm just going to put it there anyways. All right, so let's just run through real quickly because I do have some cool content for you. In general, I've been trying to record and document this build for the sake of content like this and be able to talk about it, but also maybe putting together more structured productions of it, to post on YouTube and share with the world. Unfortunately, due to weather, it's been kind of hard to get some of the footage, but I'll just run through some of the time-lapse footage, which is pretty neat. So this was day one, which is the excavator coming in and ripping through the stone wall. I actually demolished the deck myself, and then they did the stone wall. And pretty cool. The time lapse footage is always fun to watch. I know if you're like me, watching time lapse footage of construction is always really cool. So he's just ripping down the existing stone wall and starting to get it to grade, which is great. I will tell you just to sort of lead the witness a little bit. Excavation and foundation went beautifully, and we're in the middle of framing now, and I'll tell you it did not go nearly as beautifully. So here he is starting to dig the holes for the footings. Something interesting on a construction note and detailing note is this is a slab on grade, but in Connecticut we have a 3'6" frost to the bottom of footing. And because of the way the grade dropped off, we essentially had almost a 5-foot wall, and instead of stepping it, we just kind of made it flat. And it's pretty funny when you look at the hole afterwards. Let's see. Here's a great photo of the footings being framed out, and you see the little chunk in the middle. This is not very big. It's about 15 by 12 and a half ish. And you'll see there's like this little teeny island that's like 6 by 9 of dirt left, and the rest of it is just this gigantic, 5-foot-ish deep hole. So it's kind of funny to see, even though we're backfilling all of it afterwards in the slab on grade and stuff, how much digging you actually do because of the frost depth and getting down there. It's pretty wild when you think about it. I just saw a couple things in there. Yes, structural code. Yep, I know structural code. Yes, I know the bracing. And I only went with 4x4 columns, so I get it. So Clay just asked, do you see BIM ever really being widely used in a residential setting? I hope so. I do know, there's definitely a challenge to getting it used across the board in residential. So I will say that there are more and more architects that are doing it, which is great. Getting residential contractors to do it, that's going to be a bigger lift. But what I will show you is that there are benefits to it, and depending on the relationship, you could be borrowing the model from the architect and using that through construction, and at least just extracting information from it. So I think it's plausible. I think with the right contractor and the right architect relationship, I don't see why not. Gary just asked, is the railing Trex or your own family? I guess you're talking about in Revit here. And so this is my own family, which is basically one of those aluminum railings. And I don't remember when I made this family. I made it a long time ago for a house, and I've been using it ever since. I really do like that family. So no, this is my own family here. So all right, so there's the footings. So we went. We use Revit primarily for residential with my business. Nice. Yes. So then, just to run through a little bit more progress. So that went pretty good. Excavation went pretty good. I would say the only part that didn't go good with excavation is, and I mentioned this last week, was finding my septic pipe finally, and it happened to be right in the middle of one of these piers. And we're going to talk about on a silly little job like this, what that the snowball effect that caused on this project and the changes that were made because of it is pretty impressive when you think about it. And it's one of those things where the only way we would have known is by digging and finding it ahead of time. But either way, we had to put a post there. So let's just quickly go. I'll show you a quick video of the footings being poured because that's fun to see. Enrique was my concrete guy. He was awesome. He's great. There he goes. There he goes, pouring the footings. And so the footings, the excavation and footings and walls and all the concrete was basically done in under 2 weeks. And that was with the excavator only working on weekends and Enrique coming in between doing what he was doing. So pretty awesome. Happened pretty quick. Almost too fast because the framer came and the slab wasn't quite ready yet. But that's also because it was 10 degrees outside. So there's a video of the footing being poured. Just another video of it there too. Let me mute that because we all love seeing construction videos, right? So there's the footing going down. You can see how deep that hole was. It's pretty wild when you think about it. You know, at the end of the day, oh, my desktop audio is going. Sorry, guys. At the end of the day, you know, it's a slab on grade, but this is what we had to do for excavation for it, which is absolutely nuts when you think about it. So there we go, pouring some concrete, pretty fun. And then obviously walls, running through some nice time-lapse walls because that's always fun to see. There's the footing walls came in, rolled in. Pretty awesome that we were able to roll the concrete truck right up to it, which is pretty great. Luckily, there was just enough room between the septic tank and the house that he could roll through it. He did do a little bit of work to my asphalt, but otherwise all good there. I see you guys are talking about residential construction, which is great. So now slabs going in. You can see we got a nice little thermal break going on the edge of the slab, and then building up his. I'm gonna build up his vapor barrier and rebar and all the good stuff in between the slab. While that's going on, I'll quickly read. I'm full on modeling a house for a new build in St. Paul. Yeah, nice, Jordan. Great to hear it. Joe Butek just said I use residential for Revit for residential. The 3D is amazing. Yes, awesome. And we are purely residential. Philip just said he's using, they're heading that way as a residential builder. That's what I like to hear. I'm not as surprised anymore to hear architects using it on the residential side, but builders is where I'm interested to see. So real quick, let's just see the slab pour so you guys can can sort of see the unfolding of it all. There's the slab pour. There's my buddy Enrique doing an awesome job troweling and all his good stuff. There we go, nice and smooth, awesome. And there's slab. So unfortunately, fortunately we had great weather for these 2 weeks, but then this day actually he poured the slab and that night it dropped to like 20, I don't remember what degrees, and then it's basically been crap weather since. And so not too hot, not too great, but it is what it is. Just a few more photos. Here's the foundation wall. Here's the foundation wall with some waterproofing. There's the slab rebar. There's the slab after it was poured. Nice and wet. That's what the view looked like. Joseph says, yes, that is a beautiful footing. I for such a small little addition, like I said, concrete went so great, and Enrique was the man. And Joe, I know you're in the area, so if you're ever looking for a concrete guy, reach out to me. I'll give you his contact information. Insane, awesome job. No radiant heat on that, by the way. No. And so this is kind of what the house looked like when the wood was delivered. As you can see, there's some piles of wood. And there's my son on the just barely walkable surface. There may be some footmarks in it. We'll see when I haven't really noticed them now, but as we go through. So yeah, I had a good team there. And then, stuff like this happened. So this is where I'm going to pull back to the Revit model, and then we're going to jump back and forth between it. So a couple things before I sort of jump into where we're at now. As I mentioned, that part went really smooth, went through pretty quickly. The contractors were great. The process was great, and the weather was great. So not too many changes. The big change, right, was the footing. So the footing, oops, I hit subscribe. The footing right here had to move, and it had to go this way by like a foot or so less, which means the whole deck was going to move, subtract by like 2 feet, let's say, and then that pulls the entire deck back 2 feet or so. And I didn't want to make the deck smaller. I liked the size the way it was. I didn't want so then we ended up making it bigger. And as you can see here, even there's the footing. This is actually the new layout of the footings. So because the deck had to expand, the footings had to expand, and in order to make the spacing equal in between, the space between the beams got longer, and you know, so we get to that point, and I updated the drawings, which was fine, and we used it for the framing. So then the framers come out, and day one of framing, this is let's see, this is basically what they got done, which, you know, wasn't bad. As you can see, this was after it snowed. So day one of framing, it basically snowed. You can see if I zoom in here, they got the first floor done. Sorry for the dark pictures, but I went out at night. But this is where the sort of damage happened. So notice how all of this is ripped up over here. That was not supposed to happen. Things happen, right? It's the way it is. But this is what really bothered me is you zoom. I walked up and it was snowing outside, and sure enough, that's the drain pipe to I think my bathtub. That's the supply line to a sink. Remember, this was 17 degrees now this day, and so needless to say, you know, you can see here all the insulation's gone, and you could just basically see through my joists, right? So needless to say, wasn't happy. It happens, you know, depending on unclear instructions or whatever. I could tell you that the demo drawings didn't have anything about removing this, but but what this sort of leads to is one of the first sort of ways that I used Revit to solve a quick problem in the field. And so some of you already alluded to this, sort of the ability of 3D views in Revit and being able to explain and show things. And I've already mentioned this many times in different lectures or sessions here, how I believe that we should, you know, use 3D as much as possible, add 3D axons and all kinds of stuff in our drawings. And these drawings have 3D axons and whatnot. But what we had to do now was I had that detail, you know, that just happened, which was this, which we weren't expecting, and so quickly needed to show the framers how to fix that, basically. And so, you know, I sketch it by hand a little bit to figure it out in my mind, but then I wanted to update and keep it in the model. I wanted to build this stuff in the model and then use it. So the drawings are out there, right? The plans that were used for permit. But I found myself creating, and actually I've got an example here, creating just a bunch of printout 3D images that really, you know, those are what the guys are ended up building off of a lot of these details, especially the ones that are on the fly. So obviously I'm sitting right here next to the project, but to be able to within, you know, 15-20 minutes produce some of these images and drawings is extremely valuable, right? And so if I go here, here's actually the detail that we came up with. And so you could see real quickly, this did not take long to model, right? This maybe took 15-20 minutes. There's a skirt board here. We're showing the flashing. We're doing a piece of zip panel type of board here, and then the blue is an air vapor barrier. And so you can see I printed, and actually there's another detail there. So I quickly modeled this. I printed this out on a piece of paper. I think I had a section view of it too, and then we just walked through it. And so real quickly I was able to mock up this detail, show the framers on the fly, and they were able to fix it, modify it, and now we've got ourselves at least a watertight sort of detail. So here's the detail actually built now. Let me see what the picture is. Can you see in this photo? I guess I don't have a photo on it, but so if I zoom in a little bit, you'll see it. So there's the ice and water barrier. Then you can see there's the decking there, and then we went out. So real cool, a quick use of being able to flip out a detail and show someone how to build things. Because again, you know, building, you know, with a residential sort of project, you don't need to reissue an addenda and a RFI and a bulletin and right all. It's just that's not how these things work. They don't work that fast. So being able to really quickly, you know, flip out an image, you know, give, if anything, it's more like an ASR, right, an architectural, you know, supplemental ASI information, right. But again, that in this environment, it's more of just, you know, how are we going to fix it? Let's fix it, throw it out there, and go for it. I just see a bunch of chat, so let me just quickly classic siding and classic New England. Yes, that is the shingle siding is classic New England. The split level with the 2-foot overhang thing, which by the way, I never imagined myself living in a raised ranch, and I'm not a huge fan of that overhang detail at all, honestly. But it is what it is, and we're dealing with it. But it is very classic New England. There's 30 houses on my street alone that have that set up. Ronald just said, I always strip down my versions of models to remove any extraneous information. Oh, so he's replying to Eric, who said, any tips for digital ownership of Revit models and sharing? It is more of a commercial question, but what I'm alluding to is with residential, I do believe that there's the opportunity for this. If you do find a contractor who is familiar with Revit, and maybe there is one, right? Maybe it's myself. Maybe I decide I want to do just GCing and architecture of residential. Then I have the capability. Then yeah, you do want to, ideally you want to figure out some sort of release form that works for both of you for the digital data and information. Personally, because I deal with them every single day, I do think that they're just pieces of paper that don't have much bearing, but that's just me. So, and also, I mean, getting things right and having that information is way more important than some document, in my opinion. Very cool flashing. Yeah, so we're going to do flashing and all the siding, Joe, once we get there, but for now we're just moving along. Let's see. So, I think Zaf just asked, are all teams involved pre-construction meeting architecture and contractor? Yeah. So on this occasion, I'm the architect and the contractor. But yes, the subcontractor is involved as much as we possibly can. As early as possible. But in any construction, right, it's a matter of who you're talking to. Are you talking to the foreman? Are you talking to the man in the field? There's different relationships of how that information gets exchanged and passed down, and so that's something that you have to learn. And when you're working with people over and over again, you start to understand that better. So pretty cool, right? So that was just a quick example. But even before this, actually, I should rewind a little bit. There are a few things that I used Revit for that helped me a lot. Because remember, I'm GCing this. I say GC just because there's only aspects of it that are, and there's a lot of overlap with architecture and residential when it comes to that. But material ordering, tracking progress, like all of these things, beyond just making changes on the fly, are also huge, right? And so I had to order all of the material myself, and so schedules. If you'll notice here, I've got a whole bunch of schedules. If I go under multi-category material, so here is a multi-category material. I'll zoom in a little so you guys can read it. And this is literally every material in the project, right? And then I have, where is it? I have the material name, I have the family and type, and then the area, volume, whatever it is, right? So as I go through this, I can either filter by the family type and then look at all the materials within it. So like you could see here, this is all the gypsum wall board, but then these are all the wall types that they belong to, and then there's square footages. So for me to be able to quickly rip out square footages and areas and linear feet of boards and beams and stuff, huge, right? Being able to just quickly use that information to order materials. But then silly things like if I let me go to another 3D view here, ordering gravel, right? And so, there's obviously formulas and all that good stuff. Let me go back to this view where you can figure out the volume of gravel and whatnot, right? But I'm sitting here like, well, I have a model, and I could do all the math, but why not just model the gravel, right? So if you zoom in closely here, this right here, this is 6 inches of gravel under the slab. This is gravel representing my drainage around my footings. And so if I highlight all of these, and then you can see there's gravel here, and then there's gravel underneath there. Yep. So let me just isolate it. So I modeled my gravel, and then I used that for the area or the quantity, the volume I should say, and then I ordered the gravel. And let me tell you, there is a pile only about 6 inches tall left, so that's pretty cool. Like I mean, it was even the excavator was extremely impressed with how close it was, and the fact is I didn't have to guess or just take areas and do the volume stuff. I just used the real information, and as long as he wasn't too wasteful with it, I almost had the exact amount of gravel, which is something that usually is pretty you're pretty conservative with, and you end up with a ton of it, right? Ordering wood is one of those things where Um, the lumber yard. So let me go to my framing real quick. Deck framing. So as you saw from previous episodes, I modeled most of my framing in this. If not, actually, I modeled all my framing, I should say. And I use that information for quantity takeoff, for pieces, for figuring out linear feet and all that good stuff, even number of hangers and all that. The one thing I discovered is I did all of this, and then I sent it to the lumberyard, and they do a takeoff, and they give you a quote based on the drawings. And across the board, I was getting 18 to 20% more, all right, on their quote than what I was getting. And I know that there's a factor for cut, but it was so consistent that it was surprising me. And it turns out that that's literally what was kind of being built in, was the 18 to 20% for cut and waste. And so the one thing I if I had a little more control over the framers on a job like this, or maybe I was the framer myself, I would take this information and actually maybe even produce some sort of a diagram. I mean, I have I have in the sheet a view like this and all that stuff, but to be able to show the framers this piece is meant for this, and unfortunately you just can't do that. So the 20% just kind of has to be there, because these guys just rip and roll, man. They just rip it, right? But the reality is, if I was to use my model as the guide, as the quote, and then somehow maybe out in the fields, you mark them and say A, B, C, D or something like that, you could tell them, hey, there's actually 12, 2 by 10s, 2 by 10 by 10s. Don't use the 2 by 10 by 12s for this little short piece. And that's where the inefficiencies come into play, right? But pretty cool that I was seeing at least an 18% to 20% almost across the board, which is pretty wild, right? Okay, so then before I jump into the deck itself and some more of the changes, I will run through a few more things that I'm doing with schedule and the model itself. So if I go in here and I go to tracking, here's another really cool thing I'm doing. So sorry, I'm just reading you guys' chats. Remember, feel free to ask questions and stuff. Pressure treated lumber tends to twist a little bit. Yeah, Joe, it does. And that's why there's blocking and all kinds of crap all over this now, because I'm also worried a little bit about twisting too. So check this out. What you're seeing here is a 3D view of the framing and some other details like windows and stairs and stuff like that. And so what this is showing is everything in pink has been installed. So if I turn off this filter here, you'll see, oops, that's what's not installed. Let me try that again. There we go. So this has what's been installed in the field. So I'm taking a process that we developed at Turner, my group developed, using Assemble, which again, if you guys check out 2 episodes ago, head on over to live.bimafterdark.com to check it out. I talk about Assemble a little bit, and we're using that to track progress in the field, because it makes it really easy to input data and then also to condition and modify it. But if you'll notice, I have some extra, and hopefully you guys can read this. I can't. Can I scroll in there? You can scroll in properties. Look at that. Nice. Let me roll down here. So I have a few parameters, global parameters in here. I have unit price, takeoff unit, installed, and install date. And those are multi-category parameters that I hit every category that it let me hit. And I'm using those to track different things. Unit price I haven't kept up to date since my estimate. I use that for budgetary reasons, and I didn't actually roll back to look to input the new data. I will tell you that a 2 by 10 is no longer $295 a foot. It is like $320 a foot or something like that right now in my area. So pressure treat is very expensive. So what I'm doing is I'm actually tracking if something's installed and tracking the install date, which is pretty sweet. So I have progress here. I can look back on the actual progress, and and I also really wanted to see if I can get this process that we developed at Turner to work using just Revit, because as a single a single architect or a GC, you may not want to spend the money on like an Assemble or another program. You're already spending the money in Revit, and so you can do it, which is pretty awesome. The downfall is, if you'll notice, these things were all installed on different dates, right? So if I click this foundation wall was installed on January 14th. This beam here was installed on February 3rd. So I just have them colored purple. If I want to see what days everything was installed on, I can, which is pretty cool. That's this little Easter egg looking thing. I'm going to turn off the not installed yet filter. But what you'll notice is that I need, and this is just a limitation of Revit's filtering, I basically need a filter for every day. So it's not that bad because I'm adding the filters as I add the information in. But as you can imagine, it's a pain in the butt. Whereas if you saw when I was using Assemble, it automatically just grabs the parameter called install date and it'll put a color to every single day, which is pretty cool. But being able to look at it like this, right, and seeing sort of the progress in the process is cool, and it could be extremely valuable to people, right? I mean, right now I'm just kind of using it as test, but it would be good, to look back on afterwards and see when things were installed, how the progress was on a more complicated project, maybe the sequence that the contractors took, and so on. So pretty cool, and it's very simple. It's literally, I can show you how I do it. Ready? You go to Manage, Project Parameters, add a new project parameter. You say check all right here. So you check everything that exists, and then I'm going to call this one install status live. So I'm just making a new one called live. I make these all instance parameters, right? This one I'm going to make a yes no parameter. I'm going to group it under other, which is fine, and then I'm going to click OK, and then click OK. Now when I click an element, you see this right here, install status live. There it is. All I have to do is check the box, and then that tells Revit it's installed or not. With the date, literally the same thing. With the unit pricing, that's how easy it is to add parameters, and then you can use that information to drill in. You can make schedules out of it, right? You can make views and filter them like I'm showing you right here. So the power is there, and all you're doing is adding the ability to add more information to your specific model elements, which is pretty sweet. I'm going to undo that because I just realized I'm actually in my real model. I should have probably saved this as a live model, but that's okay. First, I saw some questions. Some dumb gooey. What's up, man? Or woman, actually. Have you used Procore? Yes, I have. That is what we use at Turner for all of our document management. Doing my own 2 or 3 month projects as a GC and architect. I'm not going to invest in Procore. Plus, I just don't have that type of documentation happening on this job. But Procore is fantastic for what it's built for. And Matthew Barnett just said, I'm late to join the stream. What have you used to model the framing? Matt, if you want to, this is all built 100% in Revit. I'm using Beam systems and different variations. If you check out live.bimafterdark.com, I have a few episodes where I actually run through this specific project and some of the ways that I built the framing. Or head on over to just the YouTube channel itself, and I may have a separate individual tutorial for it. But all built 100% in Revit. Emil, what's up, man? Emil's a member of the BIM After Dark community. If you guys are interested in checking that out, head on over to community.bimafterdark.com. It's a space where we have over 140 of us that are getting together and learning, helping each other learn Revit with courses and all kinds of good stuff. Emil just asked, do you need to use the yes/no parameter if you would know that based on the date you indicated something is installed? Yes, great point, actually, Emil. And so initially I wasn't going to do the dates. I was just going to do installed yes or no. And so that's kind of why I did it this way. But Revit actually gives you the ability in filters. So for those of you that haven't used filters, I do plan on digging in even more. I do have an episode with Aaron Mahler from last year about filters. But with filters, you can see I had one for not installed and installed using that. But you could, in theory, so if I go to create a new filter, and I say, I'm going to call this one not installed live, and I'm just going to hit a couple of the categories because I don't feel like hitting them all. But now you could go to install date, and you could say has no value. Okay, I don't remember when that was added to Revit. Maybe 19, maybe 20, maybe 8. No, it wasn't 18, but maybe 19. This is 20, I believe I'm in right now. So, so yes, good point, Emil. If you don't want to have the checkbox, you could easily just have a filter that says the install date has no value, and then you could turn it off, halftone it, do all kinds of cool stuff. So, great point there. These are the options you have in filtering. So you can do equals, does not equal, greater than, less than, contains, begins with, ends with, and then they have has no value or has a value now, which is pretty awesome. Maybe someone out there remembers when those were added, but I don't think those were there forever. I know those weren't there forever. Cheers, Matthew. Appreciate it. All right, man. Awesome. So cool. So there's something I'm doing there, which is pretty neat. Being able to sort of track the progress is awesome. Being able to check it against it. At the end of the day, I'll have I'll have these dates, these install dates, and be able to look on a calendar and see how the progress went, which is pretty sweet. So then let's roll back to the deck. So a few things were happening on the deck, and again, just another great example of where having the ability to quickly modify, create, and spit out imagery and documents to instructions essentially to the contractors is so valuable. So actually, the reason I opened this one, this is from the drone scanning episode last week. But the reason I opened this one is this is the old deck design. And so as you see, and I mentioned this last week, but if you look closely, there's these little cones that are showing the length, the change of those piers. So you'll notice the end pier actually moved almost 2 feet over. Then this one moved about 1 foot, and this moved about 6 inches, right, to evenly space them. Because of that distance, and a couple other things that happened. So the distance of these joists got longer. I wanted to go in the direction you're seeing here, which is 2x8s, keeping it really flat because I didn't know what kind of headroom I needed, and sort of creating these smaller spans with the beams running across this way. So because we expanded the decking, then the length of those beams the length of those joists got longer. The other thing that happened is until we established the slab, and actually, let me turn on a section box. And I know a lot of you guys don't come here to talk about geeky Revit detail stuff or architecture detail stuff, but I'm hoping you're interested in this because I love this kind of crap. So if I cut a section through here really quickly, so I'm just going to cut a section through it, and you can see the value, by the way, in modeling framing. I know, even maybe there's going to be a structural engineer down the road on a project, but just for your sake of figuring things out as an architect, modeling it is incredible. So as you can see here, the way I modeled this was already kind of tight to the window head, right? But that was with me not 100% knowing these heights until we dug down and found where the slab was in relationship and all that stuff. So long story short, this ledger board ended up being just about 1/4 of an inch above the rough opening of the door if we were to build it that way. So all of that being said, we ended up changing the joist directions. Okay, so that was the old design. Now we go here, which is the new design, right? Let me go deck framing. So we changed the joist direction. So now this is no longer ledger board. This is just a nailer. These joists are spanning longer, but we're doing 2x10s here, and then they're 2x8s there, and they're at 12 inches on center, and all is dandy. But this was a massive change from the drawings, right? And so I thought about, well, I can just update the framing plan, print that out, blah 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 blah. But at the same time, just to get things moving, I just produced this image here, right? And I printed it out on 11x17. There it is there. We used it. We marked it up a little bit, and that was the instructions. Based on the changes to the team, and that's what they built off of, right? Because the footings were there, right? I mean, you think about it. The footings were there, so there's no measuring and setting that up. They're just going off the footings, so they don't even need the dimensions anymore. They just need instructions on how we're going to frame and build this thing, and so. Pretty cool. A pretty cool example of how being able to use the framing, using the details, then create these images and then pop them out, help. And so here's a little bit. Of course, that's a dark photo. I took photos tonight and I forgot to upload them. That's okay. So now you can sort of see if I zoom in a little, you can see there's the 2x10s across here. There's the 2x8s across there. All the lovely all the lovely bracing for now to keep everything level and flush, but super helpful, right? In general, when you think about it, right, my goal is not necessarily telling them how to do their job. My goal is to get it built correctly, get it built with my design intent, and make sure that they understand the design intent. And so whatever it takes, it doesn't always have to be a hand-drawn or a 2D plan. A 3D model or diagram is an extremely valuable tool for those type of things, right? So let me see who else. Matthew just said, cheers. How's it going? Core Trapper, hello. So pretty cool, right? Just various ways now that as this thing is developing, we're using these models and this information to build. Another example that's really, really recent is this wall here. If you saw from the photos, here it is. Nope. This front wall here, which is there we go. This big gable wall. You can see it's got 2 windows in it and so on. We're trying to figure out what the easiest way to build it would be. And so real simply, I actually don't have the image here because I didn't save it out. I just quickly copied and rotated this thing down, laying it down on the ground to see if it would fit and if we could kick it up and all that good stuff. So pretty awesome, pretty cool that you have the ability to do this on the fly, give instructions, and use this information is extremely beneficial. Another thing, just by the way, for sort of material takeoff and whatnot, that I did is if we go to these schedules again, some interesting things. So here's my structural framing schedule. Let me zoom in. And so what you'll notice is it's just pretty straightforward. It's basement framing, 2x6s, right? And then there's length. And anyone who's ordered wood knows that you usually do by linear foot. But then you also, when you're ordering the wood, you need to let them know, how many of each length you need. So 2x10 by 10, 2x10 by 8, 2x10 by 12. 2x10 by whatever, right? And so what you're seeing here is I'm using conditional formatting to figure out what sizes I need in a specific area. So if you look at this is showing anything that's 12 feet or less, or between 10 and 12 feet, highlight in orange. So I'm just, in my schedules, I'm using conditional formatting to highlight, and I only did it for a specific order because I need it for a specific one, but I easily could have set up multiple conditions or one condition that told me a couple different things that said, all the yellows are 2x10 by 12. All the blues are 2x10 by 16, right? And so you can quickly condition and highlight your model to get that out of it. Again, there's the 18 to 20% that all the framers put on there, and maybe you can't be this specific when it comes to wood framing because there's just so much waste right now. I don't know what the answer is there, but Zeppo just asked, the picture looks like there's a gap on the left for the stairs. No, that is the gap. So another interesting thing about this type of house, and you can see there's the gap there, is it does make it a little awkward for those stairs there because you have this overhang, right? Actually, I should just go to the default 3D so you guys can see that. There we go. You have this overhang piece of the house, and so the stairs are tucked back there. But I really did want to try and hide the stairs a little bit, and then give us this some sort of little nook out here, which is going to be kind of like a small propane fire pit type of area. So I thought that would be a neat way to sort of tuck the stairs away and hide them. So yes, you weren't wrong. That was the gap for the stairs, and the stairs were cut, but they're not installed yet. So that's what you're seeing on the left of this photo right there. That gap, that's for the stairs there. Andy just in. Awesome. Thanks for joining me, Andy. Emil already asked. Awesome. Well, cool. So unless you guys have any more questions, that's kind of what I wanted to go through a little bit today. There's other sort of things that I can dive into, and if this was interesting to you guys, please feel free to comment and email me and let me know. Ernesto just asked a question. For some of these changes, are you adding a phase and demolishing, or are you just archiving then adjusting the model? I'm just archiving and adjusting the model just because of the speed at which it's happening. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that you create a phase for every change. That that could be pretty ugly. I guess you could do a construction phase and then the new construction phase so that they're all in the same phase. So that's plausible. The problem is if it never happened, is it really demoed in new construction? But I see what you're saying. So I'm actually just archiving the model and just keeping it up to date for now. I guess there's a couple approaches you could take, which are the phasing, like you mentioned, which is an interesting approach, or the other thing is you could do a design option and have sort of basis of design and then change and then change for this, change for that. That's a great comment, and probably something if this wasn't just my own project where I'm trying things out and I wanted to use this data and this information, if I then maybe it would be worth the effort to do that. So great point, Ernesto. Martin just joined from California. What's up, man? Sorry that you just joined us now, but you can always go back and watch the last hour to see what you missed, man. Yeah. So it looks like the questions are rolling down, which is awesome. You guys seemed interested in this, so I'm glad you were, because I love talking about this stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. If you are interested in again submitting an idea, a topic, or maybe yourself or a friend to come here and be a guest with me, I'm always interested in meeting new people and sharing you guys with the world. So head on over to submit.bimafterdark.com to do that. You guys are amazing. Have a great weekend. Love you all, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you soon. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Hope this was valuable to you. Hopefully some of you guys took some stuff away from this. And yeah, with that, I want to bid you all adieu, and see you guys soon.